week 7 of the Dorton and Doetkott Debate podcast. I am Lucas Dorton, and joined on this screen right here. There we go. It popped up. Took a little bit to get going. Nicholas Doetkott once again. Nick, how you doing?
We're hanging in there.
Yeah. So we want to apologize last week. We did record. Nick can confirm we did record an episode on Saturday. But the internet gave out in the middle of the podcast, and so everything froze. Tried to make it look nicer, but at the end of the day, you want to have some good product go out there so we didn't put out an episode, which just means we'll be able to, talk with you a little bit longer this week, which I think I'm okay with.
Yes. So we were not load managing.
We were not.
The case. We had technical difficulties, so it was not load management.
It was not load management. Yeah. See, we're like when it comes to load management, we're like Kawhi Leonard. Like, we'll miss some games every once in a while. We're not like Kyrie Irving. It's not like we're only going to play 11 games in the season. So,
who supposedly is going to play tomorrow, I guess.
Oh yeah, okay. I'll believe it when I see it. Well, we got a lot to talk about. We have a lot to talk about. Obviously, folks, you are going to miss last week's episode. I did start off the first 8 minutes of the podcast telling Nick how he was wrong, how the Patriots lost.
I was just going to say, folks, you missed the best 8.5 minutes of broadcasting history because Dorton just destroyed me, and it was hard to take, man. It was hard.
It was hard. Well, maybe when we get bigger, we can have people actually record this stuff for us. I'll have to bring it back up again in about 10 years or so.
There we go.
That's the goal, right? Well, anyways, I suppose we should get into some sports talk too, since we missed last week. So we're gonna start in the NFL. Mr. Doetkott, first off, we'll get to your Minnesota Vikings, but I want to talk about this surprise team: Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, the two-headed monster of the Tennessee Titans. Nick, I'm telling you right now, if the Titans make it to the Super Bowl, or if they win, either or, I am going to get a Ryan Tannehill Titans jersey. That's already done. I'm going.
Well, I'm going to steal your nickname for him. Ryan Goat, man.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Dude, I was just thinking, I want a Derrick Henry jersey, man. That dude's a baller.
Oh, so good. Well, anyways, for those of you who might not know, the Tennessee Titans pulled off another upset of now beating the Baltimore Ravens, manhandling them. So, Nick, my question to you is, what upset was more surprising? The Titans beating the Patriots or the Titans beating the Ravens?
Well, for most of America, Titans beating the Patriots. For me, or Titans beating the Ravens. Sorry. For me, Titans beating the Patriots. Obviously I had the Patriots winning it all, so I didn't expect them to lose. However, I'm not shocked, but I'm literally not at all, not even a slightest bit surprised that Tennessee beat Baltimore today. That doesn't mean I picked Tennessee to win. I did pick Baltimore to win, so I may sound counterintuitive here, but I'm not shocked. Ever since Tannehill took over, I've been high on the Titans. They were 7-3 in their last 10 with Tannehill. I just wasn't going to pick them to beat a New England team, which I've been high on for a decade, and I wasn't going to pick them to win a road game against a 14-2 Ravens team who had won 12 in a row.
Yeah.
But that being said, I'm not surprised at all. Ryan Tannehill, granted, he hasn't even thrown for 100 yards in either of these playoff games, but he hasn't had to, and he hasn't lost in the game. That's the main thing. And he's threw for, despite only having 80-some pass yards today, he threw for 2 touchdowns and ran for 1. He's ran for countless first downs. And Derrick Henry, you heard it here first, the best running back in football, even better than Christian McCaffrey.
Oh.
His stats look better, but he touches the ball every single play. Derrick Henry is the first running back in NFL history with 3 straight games of 180-plus yards. He busts more 40-yard rushes than any running back in football, despite the fact that he's not even nearly as fast as some of them. He stiff-armed Earl Thomas so bad, the dude got completely turned around and didn't know where he was. So with that run game, if you can run the ball like that with a solid defense, you can beat anybody. So I'm not at all surprised. Not at all.
Yeah, I'm with you on the side of. See, that's just so tough. I think I'm with you on this one. I think the Patriots one is more of a surprise, just for the fact, as you know, this season I've not been very high in the Patriots. You know, I did not expect them, like I said, to even win. You know, to win it all through the playoffs, but it's still one of those things with how much goes against the Patriots, how much people do not, go against them, don't think they're going to play well. Like even in that Titans game, when their offense was not looking good at all at any point during the game, but you still had a sixth sense. Like Tom Brady and Belichick are there, they're going to have some BS is going to go their way and they're going to win. This is just what happens every time, and it didn't. Nothing went their way. Yeah. And so I'm with you on that one. I think the Titans beating the Patriots is the bigger upset.
And I guess I didn't really necessarily explain why the Ravens one is bigger upset, but I more so it's just, obviously I've been huge on New England. I've been very high in New England. I just didn't expect them to win. However, I did say, even with all the confidence I had in New England, I did say I could see Tennessee beating them. But once Tennessee beat New England, well, then they just confirmed to me, all right, this team is good. And that just gave me even more that made it less surprising to me that they beat Baltimore. And although Baltimore won 12 in a row, I knew they were vulnerable. I'm like every team is vulnerable in the NFL playoffs. People don't understand that. What does tick me off though is I've already seen so many people now talk about, oh, Lamar Jackson's not that good, blah blah blah. It's like it's one game. The dude's gonna run away with MVP for a reason. Like just because he lost one game does not mean he's that good.
Right. Yeah, this will be now Lamar Jackson's second playoff loss. He lost last year against the Chargers. What, he fumbled the ball like 4 times or something?
And he did have 3 turnovers today. Now, I'm not saying like the dude's the greatest quarterback there is, but he's not as bad as what people are going to make him sound like. Like he's going to win MVP. He might not be the best quarterback or this as good as some people thought he was coming into the game, but he's still the main reason he went 14-2. It's just come playoff time, it's just different. I can't explain. It just is in the NFL playoffs. I'm not surprised at all. And although I think the league's becoming more of a dual threat quarterback league, like watching Cousins, who I'm actually high on, and then Jackson, I'm just like, okay, we need a dual threat quarterback. I just can't stand not watching one when he's on my team. But with that being said, I mean it's still very hard to be good as a running it unless it's very hard to win football unless you're really good in the pocket and don't throw interceptions.
Right.
Jackson can do that. I mean, he has the ability to do it. He just might not be there yet.
Right. Yeah, so I'm going to go back to something that you said. Derrick Henry is the best running back in the game. So right now, I didn't prepare this for you at all. So this is just off the top of your head. If you have to make a 1 to 5, if you want to in a particular order, if not, that's fine. Of the best running backs in the league, where do you have them at?
So Henry's 1. McCaffrey 2. Ezekiel Elliott 3. Cook 4. Barkley 5. Although I'm not sure on Barkley because I think the dude's a stud. It's just he didn't do that well with his injuries, so I'm not really sure, but I'll put him at 5. My thing is, like McCaffrey especially, and I know I put him at 2, but he looks really good with all the stats, and he is good. But the receiving yards, I'm not that high on for running backs. Yes, it's important, really? And like 1,000 yards in the season receiving, I think is what McCaffrey had. Like that's impressive, and yeah, it helps a team. But most of the time, receiving yards are just these, these check down yards that don't mean much. I think if you look, a lot of times receiving yards by running backs aren't game changing yards. Like at the end of the day, the running back's job is to run the football, to get first downs running it, to stop, to just eat away the clock. And Derrick Henry is the best runner of the football in the NFL. And if you want him to, he can catch passes. Like he might not be this known as a dual threat like Cook and McCaffrey, but he can catch if he needs to. And at the end of the day, I want a running back who at the end of the game is just going to eat up the clock like a buffet, man. And that's what Henry does.
But
And
see,
that's also why I put Elliott above Dalvin Cook, because Elliott, like, you need a guy to get a 4th and 1, you're giving it to Elliott or Henry. You need a guy to just run the clock out at the end, you're giving it to Elliott or Henry. That's what I want in my running back.
It's tough. I have McCaffrey number 1, and to me, I think it's a no-brainer in my opinion, for the reason that you mentioned. 1,000 yards receiving, 1,000 yard rushing. That is not an easy thing to do by any means. By any means. You know, Derrick Henry, don't get me wrong, phenomenal player right now. He is not better than Christian McCaffrey. There isn't a player that is as electric, in my opinion, right now. Like, and now I'm going to put aside the quarterback position. Okay, I'm going to put that aside because there are a lot of quarterbacks that are very electric. So I'm talking mainly at the running back position. Christian McCaffrey, there is no one better than him. You talk about the team. Obviously, now the Panthers lost a lot of games this year. This second half, absolutely an atrocious second half. Terrible second half. But there was a lot of games that they were very competitive in. And why is that? Well, Christian McCaffrey. He was a ginormous part to that. And you talk about how you don't value receiving yards very much for a running back. Yeah, you're right. A lot of the times it might be a little check down, dump off, type play. But the thing is as the running back, you still got to make players miss. It's not like, you're just running through brick walls. Derrick Henry is very good at that, but I don't think he'd be successful as a receiver because we haven't seen it from him. Christian McCaffrey can receive. You can put him out on these post routes to run out. He's going to make plays or screen plays. He's going to turn up the field for 30, 40 yards. But he's also going to rush for about 110, 120 yards a game too. So to me, I feel Christian McCaffrey is no doubt the best one.
I mean, everything you said, you make good points. At the end of the day, maybe McCaffrey's better all around than Henry. But like I said, I think Henry can catch the ball too if he needs to. And he's had some big receiving plays. But I think at the end of the day, the running back that gets you more wins is the guy who's a true, runner of the football. And yes, McCaffrey has plenty of rush yards too. I think he was second or third. I think he was third behind Henry and Chubb. But like I said, I just think I want my running back to be the guy you hand the ball off to and just, runs it down team's throats, wins in the game. I guess I'm just saying the same argument. I just don't value the pass yards. To me, there's so many running backs in football that can catch a ball and run for 8 yards when the defense just gives it to you. That's what third down backs are for. And I'm not saying McCaffrey's just given his 2,000 yards of scrimmage, but right. I don't think he's as good as Henry. And yes, the Panthers team around McCaffrey isn't quite as good as Henry's, right. But I don't think it's that unbelievably lopsided. I do think Fitzpatrick's much better than Fitzpatrick. I do think Tannehill's much better than the Panthers quarterbacks this year, but I think Henry gives you more wins than a McCaffrey does. I really do. Henry is the main reason the Titans have been so good as of late. I love Tannehill, but Henry is winning these games by himself. Tannehill hasn't even thrown for 100 yards in these 2 games, but Henry's ran for almost 400 yards in the last 2 weeks and just destroying teams. Mm-hmm. McCaffrey will get almost 200 yards of scrimmage and they'll still get wrecked by 25 because he just gets. He touches the ball every play.
I will say this.
I'm a McCaffrey hater, but I don't think he's as good as Henry. I really don't.
Well, I'm going to call you a McCaffrey hater because that's exactly what you are. Right. I will say this. Derrick Henry, I think, is more valuable to the Titans than Christian McCaffrey is to the Panthers, just for the fact that Christian McCaffrey puts up a lot of stats, but they're not winning games. If McCaffrey was winning games with the Panthers, then I would say he's more valuable. But right now, Derrick Henry is a more I don't think there is a more valuable running back in the game than Derrick Henry. Like I said, I don't think Henry is the best running back, but talking about a Titans team that is built around the run, there's not a more valuable running back right now in the league. You talk about exactly. Tannehill hasn't even thrown for over 100 yards against the Patriots, now against the Ravens, and Derrick Henry quite literally has been putting the team on his back. Now, I'm not saying Ryan Tannehill obviously hasn't done anything. He's still got to, get the big plays, the big third downs, the passing touchdowns. You still got to do that. But I agree. I think Derrick Henry is the most valuable running back in the game right now. But I think Christian McCaffrey is the better talent. Kind of much like when we go back to the Russell Wilson thing. I think Russell Wilson is probably the most valuable quarterback to his team, but I do think there are some quarterbacks that are a little bit better than Russell Wilson. But I think Wilson is the most valuable quarterback in the NFL. Because if he's not there, the Seahawks are trash. I'm sorry, the Seahawks are absolutely terrible if Russell Wilson is not there.
Russell Wilson's the best quarterback in football. The best quarterback in football. I know this is a different argument, but just
really,
yep.
The best quarterback in football, huh?
Yep. I'm just throwing out all sorts of best in football that people aren't going to agree with, but you know what? I don't care. I do want to say one more thing about the Henry McCaffrey thing. I was looking at All-Pro voting, and I'll be honest, I probably would have voted McCaffrey over Henry because, you know, McCaffrey's stats, you know, he had a lot more yards and whatever. And I wasn't convinced Henry's the best running back in football until this week or last week because of the playoff games. But I think McCaffrey only got like 32 votes for first team of the 50. I mean, I thought he was going to get like 48, 49, 50 because everybody acts like he's so much ahead of everybody else. But Henry got like 16, and I was happy to see that because it shows that people are recognizing how good he is. Because like I said, if you just look at the stats, like scrimmage yards, total yards, McCaffrey runs away with everybody. But I just don't think that's a true showing of how good your running back is. I think.
Well, what do you need? Do you need him to have 5,000 scrimmage yards from the line or what?
I think, like quarterbacks, for instance, passing yards are the most overrated stat in football. It may sound stupid when I just say that, but the top 5 passers don't make the playoffs. The only reason they have so many passing yards is because they have to pass because they're down and they're throwing interceptions, turning it over, so they have to pass.
Fair.
Receiving yards for running backs are a lot of times a product of just an offensive system, a product of garbage time, or just a lot of times it's just it's practically a hand up anyways, some of them. But a lot of McCaffrey's are just dump downs that for whatever reason the defense just gives them. I think they just realize you can give them yards, just don't let them get in the end zone. You're eventually going to beat them. I just don't think receiving yards for running backs win you games. It just doesn't happen.
Well, you don't need a car to drive to the grocery store, but it sure helps you. I mean, you know.
Wow, that's like a Colin Cowherd analogy. That was good.
Well, thank you. I've been studying up on my Colin stuff here. I mean, it's one of those things. Like, I agree with you in the fact that passing yards I think are a very overrated stat. Look at Jameis Winston, for example. The guy is top 5, top 10 in passing yards every single year, but then he throws 30 interceptions. Well, it's not helping your team at all.
Yeah, I just think the main job of running back is to run the football and kill the clock. That's what I want. That's what I want my running back to do. I want them. I mean, yes, it's nice to have a dual threat running back, especially nowadays in NFL. But I want the running back who's just going to run the football up the gut and just destroy the clock. That is why I am higher on Elliott than most people, and I have Elliott ahead of Cook. I want my running back to. When you say 4th and 1, who do you want to give the ball? Or you need 1 first down to ice the clock. What running back do you want? I want Henry and I want Elliott. Beasts with the football that are just going to run up the middle and just drill people.
They're more power backs. I give that to you.
That's what I want. And that's what I think is more important and more valuable.
In my opinion, I want a running back that can do both. I want a running back that can run the ball, obviously, but having a receiving back in the NFL, that is so valuable. That is such a valuable thing to have. So let me ask you this then, Nick. Let me ask you this. Let's say tonight, okay, Minnesota Vikings trade Dalvin Cook to the Panthers for Christian McCaffrey. You're telling me you're not going to be excited about that because they passed the ball to him more?
No, I actually would be because I think Cook gets a lot of receiving yards too. I think McCaffrey's I think McCaffrey's just better than Cook. I really do. I mean, like I said, Elliott I put above Cook. Would I want Elliott for Cook straight up? I mean, honestly, probably, yeah. I want the power back. Now I'll say this: the Chargers, for instance, Eckler and Gordon. Well, Eckler's a dual threat, like the prototypical definition of a dual threat, whereas Gordon's more of a just bruiser. I think Eckler's much better, and I'd rather have Eckler. But that's mainly just because I don't think Gordon's that good, and I think Eckler's really good. But at the end of the day, like I said, I mean, I know I don't even necessarily have, facts back this up, but I just think the big bruiser running backs that just go hit you, keep getting yards and keep running time off the clock, and you can just say, 4th and 1, give me the ball, I'm going to get you first down. That's the guy I want. And I think that's the Derrick Henrys, the Ezekiel Elliott's. Just look at the Giants. They won the Super Bowl. I don't know if it was the first time against New England or the second time. They were the 32nd ranked team in rushing. But Brandon Jacobs and Ahmad Bradshaw, you could just give it to them and say, boom, go hit somebody, make it count. And that way in the fourth quarter, they're going to be so worn down. And, your job is just to get me first downs. That's the kind of running backs I want.
Well,
just me.
I guess we got to disagree on something. Well, we got to move on.
We'll agree that Tannehill's the GOAT, though, right?
Oh, absolutely. Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
We'll agree that Miami Dolphins are idiots for getting rid of him.
I
honestly don't know why they ever did that. They made the
I think it was one of those things where Miami wasn't going to, we weren't winning with him, which isn't necessarily Tannehill's fault. We didn't have a lot of the best teams around him. Well, scratch that. We had decent teams. Adam Gase is a terrible head coach. So I think that's half of it right there.
I mean, I guess I'll say this. At the time, I didn't think Tannehill was this quarterback you could win a Super Bowl with. But I knew he was good. And, I feel like mainly the only reason I got rid of him was because he got injured and didn't start the playoff game. It's that's not his fault. And it's not like he's Carson Wentz or somebody or, I don't know, Newton or somebody who gets injured all the time. It's I think you can count on Tannehill to stay healthy for the most part.
You can.
Just because Matt Moore looked decent as a backup doesn't mean Tannehill shouldn't be your quarterback of the future. I don't know I don't know. The Dolphins did Dolphins like that.
If you're gonna tear things down though, which is what they were doing, I mean, you might as well go all in.
But anyways, coach's decision of the year was to bench Mariota. That dude is awful. And I like the Oregon Ducks, so if anything, I'd be biased for Mariota. That dude's terrible. And Tannehill totally saved the Titans season.
He did. Well, anyways, move on. There was another game that was played today, Nick. I texted you right after they lost, shortly after. I said, are we going to see a famous Nick Duckett rant on the Minnesota Vikings? Well, you have the center stage. Go ahead.
Well, unfortunately, I was gonna grab a bowl of vanilla ice cream and ask you, Dorton, what is this? And then you'd say ice cream. I'd be like, no, it's the Vikings offense. But I forgot to grab the bowl. That offense is as vanilla as can be. It's freaking terrible. The play calling, trash. Cleveland Browns, please, 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 please make Kevin Stefanski your next head coach. Because I want Pat Shurmur back. I don't know how he'll do with Cousins, but he did darn good with Case Keenum. I want him back. That offense is just trash. They'll do things for 3 quarters, and it won't work. And then finally in the fourth quarter, they'll be like, oh, this hasn't worked for 3 quarters. Let's try something else. And by that time, it's too late. And whatever they did in the fourth quarter didn't even work anyways. You can't have Cousins, Diggs, Thielen, Cook, even Irv Smith Jr. and Rudolph, and score, 10 points? No, you can't do that. It's just terrible. And the defense. I know the offense is a little bit more to blame this game, but I'm just so sick of Viking fans. Trust me, they're all over the place. They give the defense a pass because the offense sucked and they were on the field so much. I don't care. Be conditioned. You know what? Be good when you're on the field a lot. And the first drive of the game was the worst drive of the game for the defense. Jimmy Garoppolo, who honestly didn't even play that well, just marched it down the field for the Niners, down our throats. They looked like they were playing a kindergarten defense and scored a touchdown right away. It's the first drive of the game, so don't give me an excuse you're tired. It was awful. The Vikings played terrible. I have no idea how they beat the Saints. That is why I predicted the Saints to beat them by 20 points, because look what they did today. They were just awful. I don't know how they won last week. They gave me a little bit of confidence back and just ripped it away. Every year, I'm just so sick of this. Yes, I'll be a Viking fan next year and probably get excited again, but, I'm just sick of it. I'm so sick of it. It's just the play call is bad one day. the offense is bad one day and the defense will be good. Then the defense will be good and the offense will be bad. The play calling will look good for like 1 week, and then you realize, oh, it's just because they played the Detroit Lions, and then they can never win a big game, and then all of a sudden they'll win one. Like the 10th try you give them, they'll win one, and then they can't win another one. They haven't won 2 playoff games since 1987. They made it 4 Super Bowls and couldn't win a darn one. They scored like 1 offensive touchdown in 4 Super Bowls, scored 1 offensive touchdown. For gosh sakes, they came in the double digits once. Like, can you please just win a big game for once? Just write on your like whiteboard in the locker room, this is week 1, because you know what? Then they'll win. It just, oh my God. I just best stop now. I best stop now before I get a heart attack.
Yeah, I don't want to have to replace you on here. I mean,
man, I knew it was over like 4 minutes into the second half. I knew it was over.
Yeah.
I started playing darts with like 8 minutes left.
So let me ask you this. Who should get more of the headlines tomorrow? Should it be the 49ers defense playing that well or the Vikings offense playing that bad?
I think Vikings offense. At the end of the day, the San Fran defense played very well. The D-line, obviously got to Cousins, at will seemingly. Sherman played well again, like he has all year. Number 1 quarterback in football by PFF, and he got a pick. But I think the bigger story was just the Vikings O-line got demolished, and the play calling was just terrible. Granted, now that I'm saying this, I mean, I thought Cook was going to be able to run the ball. He's been able to run the ball on pretty much everybody all year when he's healthy, and the Niners just straight up stopped him. So, I mean, it's almost unfair to pick. I mean, I might not be giving the Niners enough credit, but I just think our offense was so bad. It's a little bit of both, though, but I guess if I had to pick one, I'd say the bad Vikings offense more so than the good Niners defense.
It's just, to me, when you have an offense with Kirk Cousins, who proved a lot of people wrong against the Saints, finally is able to win a big game. Mm-hmm. You have Dalvin Cook, who's, I think we both agreed, top 5 in the NFL as far as running backs go.
Yeah. You
have Adam Thielen, who's one of the better receivers in the game. And you have Stephon Diggs, who I wouldn't put in the top 10, 15 of maybe 15 of wide receivers, but he's definitely a wide receiver that you want on your team. He's going to get you those deep plays. He's a very quick guy. I can make you miss. Kyle Rudolph as well, definitely a very solid player, and Irv Smith Jr. too. I didn't know a whole lot about him, but reading more in the past few weeks. Guy's having a very underrated season, compared to what a lot of people should be giving him. I also thought the 49ers were going to win this game, and maybe this was me soaking in with all of the Vikings fans, all of the disrespect that the disrespect that they've been getting, and and kind of hyping me up a little bit too. So I thought the 49ers were going to win, but I thought it was going to be a much closer game than it was.
I did too.
And they barely showed up. Showed up.
It was pathetic. Well, just like last week, they start off terrible, 3-0, and then the Niners go right down and march it down and score. I'll give the Vikings credit. They went right back and scored a touchdown, and then Diggs 41-yarder, and I'm like, maybe we actually will hang with them after that pathetic start, just like last week against Saints. Well, no. That was like the only drive they had all game that was decent. They had, I think, 5 first downs the entire game. It was like 5 or 6. The third least in NFL playoff history. And 2 of them were garbage. 1 or 2 of them were garbage time first downs at the end where the Niners were playing prevent. The Niners are playing prevent practice, like on a drive, and the Vikings couldn't even get a 4th and 1 conversion. Like, my goodness.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just pathetic. That's all it is. It's pathetic.
Well, to save you a heart attack, Nick, you won't have to talk about the Vikings until next season.
I don't know if you see my face post, but I said Vikings key, cut every single offensive player, every one of them. You go sign a bunch of American Allied Football or whatever that is, offensive players, the minimum contracts. Spend all that extra money on defense. You draft a punter in the first round, and you punt on first down every drive and hope the defense scores you some points. That's a Super Bowl recipe right there.
Oh, I cannot think of a better plan than that one right there, ladies and gentlemen.
Start the trend. Start the trend.
Nick Duckett for Vikings GM.
Hey, they'd probably score more points than they did today. Jeepers.
Well, we're going to move on. There's a couple more games tomorrow. So we'll talk about the first one. Texans at Chiefs. Who do you have in this one?
After New England and New Orleans picks were wrong for my Super Bowl prediction, which all my NFL picks wrong this year, I picked Kansas City. So I'm going with Kansas City over Houston. I'm a little doubtful if they'll be Tennessee now next week if they win, but I'm picking Kansas City over Houston. Houston's like the most up and down. They're the one good team in football that is like incredibly up and down and like looks terrible one week and then looks good the other. And to me, they're both just offenses going at it with defenses that, are just kind of But I think Kansas City's offense is better and they're at home, and I don't see the Houston being able to beat them. And Kansas City, I think, is finally starting to click. I don't think they're as good as last year because they don't have Kareem Hunt, but I think Kansas City is the better team, and they're at home, and I have Kansas City winning by probably 6 or 7 at least.
I have Kansas City winning as well, too. I think Houston got extremely lucky. I thought Buffalo was going to run away with that one when they were up on top 16-0. Like I said, I'm not high on Bill O'Brien at all. I'm probably one of his biggest haters in the league, if you want to call it that.
I hear you on that, though. I mean, you have very valid points when bringing that
up. I don't think. Number one, I'm pretty sure has been like snowing like crazy the past couple days, so that ain't gonna help the Houston boys as well too. Yeah, it's gonna be very cold there, and that atmosphere is one of the best atmospheres in all of sports, not just football, in all of sports with those fans there. I just think it's gonna be too much. This is another thing too. The Chiefs' defense has gotten a lot of slack this year for whatever reason. Like it's not very good. It's a very underrated defense. That is a very underrated defense.
For years, they've been an opportunistic defense. Like
Yeah.
I think, a recipe for success in football is to have a good defense, be able to run the football, and then have a quarterback that can get it done when you need to. Well, I don't think the Chiefs have like a great defense, but if you don't have a great defense and you do have a great offense, then what you want from a defense is, if you're not going to hold teams, 18 to 22 points a game, or you're not going to just shut down defenses, then at least force turnovers, get sacks, stuff like that. And that's what Kansas City does. They might allow a lot of yards, but they also get a lot of sacks, put offenses in bad positions, and they get turnovers that help their offense score. And that's what Kansas City's done for 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah. I think it's going to be not a very close game at all. Like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a double-digit game.
I could see it.
But granted, though, I was thinking about this today. Now I know how you felt during the regular season with your picks, because I have been struggling big time on these playoff picks. I got the Vikings one wrong last week. I got the Patriots one wrong last week. I got the Titans one wrong again this week. So I guess we'll have to find. I'm just getting all these ones wrong. I'm starting to turn into you.
I think Colin Cowherd was 0-4 last week. So
yeah, I don't know. But anyways, and then we have the other game too. Seattle Seahawks at the Green Bay Packers. Nick, who you got in this one?
Well, all right. Mr. Black, hope you're listening. Packers have a lot of grit, Dorton, and heart. I think they're going to make it at least to the NFC Championship. Aaron Rodgers is regaining his form. He's a top 5 quarterback and could be if the team wanted to open up the offense, all right? Said it.
Ladies and gentlemen, that goes back to, for those of you who do not know, Mr. Duckett here is probably one of the worst people when it comes to sports betting because he always is on the wrong side of it. When the Vikings played the Packers, he made a bet with one of his old teachers in high school, I believe, who was a Packers fan, and lost that bet. So he had to throw that in there. So we'll have to see if maybe there's any more during the rest of this show.
Oh, man. I'll tell you this. I will be rooting so hard for Seattle because I love me some Russell Wilson. Mm-hmm. The only thing better than the Vikings winning, which unfortunately doesn't happen much in playoffs, is the Packers losing. Man, would I just love to see them boys at Lambeau lose. Oh, gosh, would it be lovely.
So do you think they are going to lose?
Well, I mean, yes, I do. Despite what I just said, I think Russell Wilson is going to get the job done. Because Dorton, you know who the best quarterback in football is? Russell Wilson.
I'm not okay. I don't want you to think I'm disrespecting. Like I said, I think he's the most valuable quarterback in the league. I don't think he's the best as far as talent wise.
So who's the best quarterback in football? If you're going to take one quarterback, who are you taking?
Mahomes.
All right, I hear you on that.
Mahomes. Yeah.
I think Lamar's in the best year, but I don't think he's better than Mahomes or Wilson.
No.
Obviously, I'm a huge Brady guy, but at the end of the day, he's 42. I mean, if it comes down to a game-winning drive, despite how idiotic I may sound, I still might take Brady just because he's my boy and he's done it time after time, although he didn't get it done against Tennessee.
Yeah.
But I just think Wilson's better, especially in a playoff game. I'm taking him. He's got way more experience than almost anybody in the league except Brady and Rodgers in the playoffs. He's been to 2 Super Bowls and won one. And for years, he's been good now. And even this year, he'll probably be second in MVP behind Lamar. And Mahomes is a stud. And last year, he was clearly the best quarterback in football, at least for last season. But I think Wilson's better. I really do. Some quarterbacks just know how to get the job done.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I know he's only got 1 Super Bowl, but let's face it, they're hard to get to. And he hasn't. I mean, the last 2 or 3 years now, ever since the Legion of Boom's been gone, Seattle hasn't necessarily had that great of a roster, and Wilson still led them to double-digit wins every year.
Right. And that's my point in saying I think he's the most valuable quarterback. We saw this year Mahomes, when he was hurt a few weeks, Matt Moore came in, and he played very well. He won him some games, too.
Yeah.
So I think Mahomes is the better quarterback, but I think Wilson is the most valuable quarterback.
Listen, I want Tennessee in the Super Bowl, but I would love to see a Patrick Mahomes Chiefs and a Russell Wilson Seahawks in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I would love to see that.
Yeah, that would be exciting. That would be really cool to see for sure.
I think, sorry to interrupt, but going back to the prediction, Russell Wilson's stats are very bad in Lambeau. But and it doesn't sound like the weather's going to be very good, unfortunately. But I just think it's going to be a close game. Typically, playoff games are. Almost every Seattle Seahawks game this year, whether they play a good team or a bad team, has been close. Most of the time in football, the close games go to the team with the better quarterback. And right now, that's clearly Russell Wilson right now. And I know Green Bay's at home, which gives them the edge. But I don't know. I've been wrong so many times this year, so, I mean, why should you listen to me? But I just think Wilson's going to get it done. I just really do.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Russell Wilson and the Seahawks as well, too. Aaron Rodgers, very, very phenomenal player. I just don't think Matt LaFleur, I think he's a very good coach. I think he's definitely an upgrade from McCarthy, for sure. But obviously, first playoff game as a head coach, it's tough to see a lot of things. Pete Carroll, too. I mean, you want to talk about Belichick, Brady. Carroll and Russell Wilson, that is also a dynamic duo. Pete Carroll is a very, very good coach. I think Russell Wilson and the Seahawks, though, are going to get it done in Green Bay.
Yeah. But the Packers have a lot of grit and heart, and Aaron Rodgers is a top 5 quarterback. So.
Right. And that's obviously coming from the heart, too. That's definitely not written down or anything.
Oh, right here. Yep. Oh, boy.
That's funny. Okay, well, besides that, there are actually some NFL coach hirings that happen, believe it or not. So one of the first ones that we saw, Matt Rule to Carolina, to the Panthers. I'm going to be honest, I don't know a lot about this guy. I'm not down on him, obviously. He's had success at Baylor over there. But I think Carolina just kind of wanted a fresh start, obviously moving on from Ron Rivera with him going on to the Redskins. That's kind of one thing that the new ownership wanted, was to kind of put their stamp on the organization, and that was hiring him. What do you have to say about this hiring for him?
I mean, I'll be honest. For the most part, I'm kind of just digging for a story bit here because, like, I don't know a lot about this guy either. But from what I've seen, I believe he was Temple coach before Baylor, right?
I think. Don't
I
quote me.
believe he was Temple coach for 3 years and then Baylor coach for 3 years. Well, the first like year at each of those programs, they weren't very good. The second year, they were mediocre, but they improved. And then the third year at Temple and third year Baylor, they were good. Temple pretty good, Baylor very good. I mean, Baylor only lost 2 games before their bowl game. They were both to Oklahoma. So both programs, he kind of struggled right away, but he after 2 or 3 years, they were a very good team, which to me shows maybe this guy's got a system that is very good. It just takes a year or two for everybody to get bought in to it. And to me, Baylor was this football program that was very good for 5 to 10 years. RG3 was there and had a Heisman, and then that scandal whatever happened, and they kind of dropped off the map for like 2 or 3 years, and Matt Rule kind of brought them back. Baylor is not expected to be that good this year. So I think with the head coach options out there, especially after Rivera, who I think is probably the best option out there, was already gone because the Redskins swiped him early. I think the Rule hiring is a better one than, for instance, the Judge hiring or the McCarthy hiring. I think I would much rather take a flyer on Rule and see what you got out of him than take one of these guys who's already been in the NFL.
Right, right. Yeah, I think it's yeah, I'm with you on that one. I think obviously going to two different programs, and having some kind of success there seems like turning the program around. It's definitely what they need now. How that translates to the NFL, who knows? Obviously, NFL is a different dog, but I think it's good for Carolina. I mean, obviously, it's starting fresh with somebody who you don't really have a lot to work with as far as NFL coaching experience or college coaching experience. There is a little bit of a risk there, but like I said, I mean, with how bad this Carolina team is, I mean, he's not going to have high expectations, so that'll be good for him to see what happens for sure.
I'm kind of surprised by the contract he got, though. It's like, isn't it like 7 years?
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, and he's getting, I think, like the 7th or 8th most guaranteed money for any coach in football as a new hire. That's crazy. And Rivera for the Redskins, he got a big long deal too. Like, really surprised by that.
So the Giants hired a head coach. Patriots wide receiver and special teams coach Joe Judge. I'm going to be honest, I had heard of this Matt Rule guy. Every once in a while his name's thrown around. Mm-hmm. Nick, I am not kidding you at all when I say this. I literally did not. I had never even heard this guy's name until I found out that he got hired. I'm not even joking at all. I literally had not heard of this guy's name ever.
I just don't understand who even got the job. Like, a wide receiver coach? Like, what? Like, normally it's an OC or a D coordinator, or
right.
like a quarterbacks coach or something at the very least. But a wide receiver coach for a team whose wide receivers didn't even do much? I mean, I guess they didn't have a lot of talent, so I guess that might not be Judge's fault. But I think at the end of the day, the only reason he got the job is because he's a Patriot.
Sure.
Which honestly shouldn't necessarily be a reason to give a guy a job, because almost every coach who was an assistant under Belichick who has become a head coach has done very poorly. Now, Tennessee, Mike Vrabel is doing very good right now. For the most part, Belichick assistants have not been very good, including Josh McDaniels with Denver. I will say this, though. Maybe I'm just buying into it and sound really stupid, but I don't know if you heard Joe Judge's speech when he was getting introduced.
I heard a little bit of it.
I think I did a 180 and I bought into this guy now. He was pretty much saying what I've said many times, and somebody at work just mentioned me the other day. You can't just have a system and go into it and expect everybody to follow it and succeed that way. As in, what I'm trying to say, like, not every player has the same assets and abilities as everyone else. You have to play and cater to your players' abilities. Like, he pretty much said, I don't want you to tell me what a player can't do. I want you to tell me what he can do, and we'll work from there.
Mm-hmm.
As in, you just work to, in a long way of saying this, you work to your team's strengths. And that's what he was trying to point out. And that's the number one in coaching, I think. You work with what you have. You don't try to get out of somebody what he doesn't have. And that's what's made the Patriots great for so many years. They say, you do your job, you do your job, you do your job, you follow your role, and as a team together, we'll win. And, you know, maybe he's just saying this because he was under Belichick and that's the right thing to say. But if he truly does that, I mean, I think the hiring could work out. But
I think it could. And kind of go.
That's just a speech, but I don't know.
Sure. You say one thing, do another. I mean, Nick Saban said he was going to stay with the Dolphins, and then a week later went to Alabama. So you never know. Yeah.
But yeah, hiring a wide receiver coach, that was baffling to me at the time. I'm like, wow.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, kind of with the Carolina team, I think the Giants have a better roster than the Carolina Panthers. But like I said, expectations I don't think are extremely high with this team. So he'll be able to kind of work at it for a couple of years and see what he's able to get out of them.
Are you surprised how fast these head coach vacancies have been filled? I mean, unless it's not normally this fast, is it? Like the Browns are the only vacancy left.
Yeah, I'm very surprised. I was especially surprised at the Dallas Cowboys how fast I hired McCarthy. I seriously, I thought that was probably going to be the last one that was going to be hired.
I thought so too.
One of the first ones.
Like they were talking on after the Vikings game today, or maybe it was towards the end, about the Niners D coordinator who's been shown a lot this year because he just gets super pumped on the sidelines. And they were talking about how, you know, his name's been thrown around for head coaching jobs. And I'm thinking like, well, he ain't going to get it. There's only one left. Like, I just can't believe how fast they fill. Like you can't even talk to a lot of these guys right now because they're still playing and, you know, they're not going to be invested into their head coach interviews, and everybody's already hired a guy except for the Browns. I just can't believe how fast they're going, especially considering I don't think the options out there are that great this year.
Right. Well, we'll have to move on from that, but we'll have to see how both of those hirings go. Like I said, I don't think there's much hype behind them, but you never know. It could be good hiring. Now, there's been some rumors. Tom Brady, he is coming back, that is for sure. He will be coming back next season. But will he come back as a New England Patriot, Mr. Doetkott?
I just want to say first, I've gotten a lot of NFL things wrong this year. But for everybody who said Brady was going to retire, I told you. He's been saying for years he is not. He wants to wait till he's 45. I've told you guys for years he's not retiring. I don't care if he sold his house 5 months ago or whatever it was. I told you he's not retiring, and he's not. However, the question you asked me, the rumors are going around, but rumors have been going around for New England for years. I think Brady's going to stay. I really do. I would. With that being said, I'd love to see him go to Dallas and win one. I mean, that would be kind of cool.
Sure.
But as long as he wants to go back to New England, I think he will be because Robert Kraft's going to take him back. Robert Kraft likes Brady. He wants Brady back. And I think Brady's going to come back. I mean, I just can't imagine him playing anywhere else.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't see him leaving the Patriots. If he did, I don't think I'd necessarily be completely shocked. You know, if he were to go to a team like the Chargers, which is kind of the big name that's been thrown around with Tom Brady, look at it from Tom Brady's side. You know, what does he have left to prove? He's the GOAT. He has the Super Bowls. He has the records. He has the stats with a very, very poor offensive team that he had in New England this year. And I'm assuming they aren't going to try and get much better. You go to a team like the Chargers who have a very solid running back tandem in Austin Eckler and Melvin Gordon. They have one of the better receivers in the game and Keenan Allen, one of the solid tight end, and Hunter Henry. Williams is a solid receiver as well too. He has a lot of weapons in there for the Chargers, and maybe he wants to try something new. Try a new plan to kind of stick it to people and say, "Hey, I can win somewhere else too."
Yeah. Like I said, I don't think he's going elsewhere because I think as long as he wants to come back, he will be back, and I think he will decide to do that. And although he had nothing to work with this year, I think they got to get a little better. And I think at the end of the day, they're going to try to get better so he comes back. But if he does leave, I think he could definitely have success elsewhere. I think the Chargers could be one team because they got good pieces all over the place. I think the Buccaneers would be interesting. I don't think they'd win a Super Bowl or anything, but they definitely have very good wide receivers. I think the Cowboys would be interesting, but at the end of the day, I think they're going to sign Prescott back. I guess there's all sorts of teams you could go to, but the Colts, I think the Colts should be in on it. If Brady actually does leave, I think the Colts should be on him. They'd be good with him, I think. But I don't think at the end of the day, I think he'll be a Patriot next year. I've said that for years, and I'm sticking to it.
I think he will too. Like I said, I wouldn't be too surprised. But if he does, I mean, like I said, you look at a team like, like the Indianapolis Colts, like the Chargers. A lot of talent on that offense.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that was the biggest downfall this year for this Patriots team is their offense. Tom Brady did not have a lot to work with.
No.
Losing Gronkowski hurt a lot more than I think a lot of people thought it was going to, because he was really looking for. Edelman couldn't hang on to the ball. N'Keal Harry was hurt for a lot of the season, and I mean, was okay, but wasn't phenomenal. Run game was poor.
Yeah, I'm one of those people you could classify as losing Gronk was hurt a lot more than they thought. Because obviously you don't want to lose a guy like Gronk, but I didn't think it would affect him as much as it did either. Because over the last several years, when even though Gronk's missed a lot of games, they were actually like better record without him than they were with him. But clearly they missed him this year, and I didn't expect he'd be that big of an absence, but he was.
Well, we'll have to see. Maybe we'll be reporting some breaking news in a few weeks to see if Tom Brady leads. Maybe he goes to the Miami Dolphins. Who knows?
If he went somewhere else and did win, though, I would be so happy to just stick it to all those people who give Belichick all the success and Brady none of it. Yeah. Belichick is the best coach ever, but Brady's the best quarterback ever. And at the end of the day, the quarterback means more. And I don't care what anybody says. Belichick wouldn't be where he is if it weren't for Brady, too. So I would just love to stay with people.
Yeah. That's fair.
Belichick was nothing until Brady came around.
That's a good point. I know you're very hot on that subject, so we'll move on so we don't get you more heated here. So move on.
2, 3, 4 today.
Move on to some NHL. There's been a little bit of news, like we said, kind of like the NBA. Not a whole lot has been going on, but there has been some news. The Predators fired their head coach, Peter Laviolette. I know I probably butchered that. Normally, hockey names I'm not too bad with, but I didn't do that one at all. This is one that is a little surprising, not too much. They definitely were very much set back this season compared to what they've done in the past. This is a very, very, very solid head coach. They were 248, 143, and 60 during his time with the team. Obviously went on that impeccable playoff run where they ended up losing in 6 games to the Pittsburgh Penguins in the Stanley Cup final. Has had numerous playoff experience, playoff wins. Also with a couple other teams as well. One with the Carolina Hurricanes, won the Stanley Cup. Lost with the Philadelphia Flyers as well. So I guess when I first found out about this, like I said, the Predators were a team that was struggling this year. They're outside of the Western Conference playoffs as it stands right now. So a team that normally has fairly high expectations weren't really living up to them this year. I guess when you saw this, what was your reaction with it?
Well, like I said in a previous podcast, the NHL, man, it's like the national hot seat league. Hot seat league. Sorry, I butchered that. It's like I just don't know. It's like an epidemic. Everybody's just getting fired left and right. I don't understand. I mean, I know you're struggling. Like they're 10th in the West. They only have 47 points, but the dude's got a 248, 143, and 60 record. They made the Stanley Cup Finals in 2017. That's 2 seasons ago. I know you're struggling this year, but like, is it really fire worthy? To me, I don't know. Like, give the guy next year. Like, firing him now isn't gonna I mean, I guess St. Louis fired their coach last year when they were terrible. They ended up winning the Stanley Cup. But I don't think firing him now is going to necessarily turn your season around and win the Stanley Cup for you. And I don't know if you should really move on from him after this season anyways. Like, it's just like everybody's firing the coach, and I think everybody just says, oh, we're struggling. Let's just get rid of him now. Everybody else is doing it. I don't really understand.
I agree. I think it was
Somebody's got to replace you. It doesn't mean they're going to be better than you. I don't get it.
right. Sometimes a change of scenery, having a new coach and will change things up. I'm with you though. I think it's one of those things where like if he was not a very good coach and he was there for a long time, then yeah, maybe get rid of him. But he has had a lot of playoff, obviously, like we mentioned before, Stanley Cup experience too. Not just with Nashville, but with the two other teams I mentioned before, with the Flyers and Hurricanes. This is a guy that was established as a very solid coach in the NHL, sorry. And I was surprised. I think you have to give him another year. If next year, yes, and next year he comes in and he's playing, he's terrible coaching, the Predators are bad again, then sure, I think you have a reason to get rid of him. But just based off of his track record, I think they ditched him too soon.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head. Not only has he made the Stanley Cup with them, but he's made it elsewhere. Like the dude's been a good coach his whole career. Now, right. I've been an advocate. I've said it many times, like with McCarthy and Tomlin. I don't think just because you won a Super Bowl or a NBA Finals or NHL or Stanley Cup Finals, it should mean you just get a free pass for the next 5 years. Well, that being said, this is only 2 years removed from a Stanley Cup appearance. I know they didn't win it, but I mean they made it, and I don't think most people expect them to be that good in 2017. And this is only 2 years removed from that. Like, let's not freak out. Plus, although they're 10th and not very good, it's not like they're dead last in the West. I mean, they're not like this pathetic team. Like, I think at least give him next year.
I agree.
Yeah.
It is kind of cool, actually. So he is one of just two head coaches in the Predators' 21-year existence, Barry Trotz being the other one. So that definitely shows a model of consistency that the Predators are able to put out every single year. The fact that you can only have so far two coaches in your entire team's history is unbelievable. So, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of this one. I'm not a huge fan of firing coaches in the middle of the season unless it's warranted. I don't think this one's warranted at all. I'm not a big fan of this. As far as my Avalanche standards go, and for the Wild as well, too, being in the same division as them, this is huge for us, but I don't know. It's interesting.
How many mid-season firings is this now in the NHL? 4?
It seemed like we had about 3 or 4 in a span of like a 2-week period. And
Calgary.
Yep, Calgary did.
Toronto.
Dallas,
Nashville. Yeah.
I think New Jersey was another one.
Oh, yeah, New Jersey. Yeah.
New Jersey did as well, too.
Crazy. You said it's like one team does it, so now everybody wants to do it.
Right. We'll have to see how that affects them.
Like I said, St. Louis did it last year, and then they ended up winning the Cup. I don't know if everybody else expects the same thing to happen this year or what, but I think some teams are jumping the gun.
Right. So obviously some NHL All-Star Game news. They came out with the All-Star Game jerseys. I'm not a fan of them. Honestly, I love what the NHL does as far as their All-Star festivities, the skills competitions, and the actual game itself. I'm a ginormous fan of. But the NHL, they do not put out very good jerseys for their All-Star games. I didn't like this one at all. What was your opinion on them?
To be honest, I don't really mind them. Some of them, it kind of depends on the team and what your logo looks like. Some are kind of iffy, but I really don't mind them, to be honest. As far as clothing and shoes and whatnot, I'm the kind of person who likes, the plain old black, plain gray, plain white. I don't need a lot of color. And, these are pretty much just plain black and plain white jerseys, correct?
Yeah, it was it's just a weird design. It was so. I honestly I didn't take too much time to look in. It took about maybe 5 seconds.
From what I've seen that they're going to be, they're pretty plain, but to me that's actually fine. I don't really mind them, to be honest. I don't need you to go all out on jerseys, like the Utah Jazz, those weird ones they have. Those I
Yeah.
actually kind of like, but a lot of times I think plain and simple, all like solid white, solid black, I don't really mind. And I
So
think most people are gonna agree with you and not like them because it's kind of against the trend right now. But I actually kind of like them.
so the jerseys essentially they're either all like gray ones or all black ones or
Yeah.
white ones, sorry, and it has like some white stripes, white or black stripes across the midsection into the arm with the logo just slapped in the middle. I don't know. I just NHL, you do a phenomenal job, like I said. My favorite all-star festivities with all the different stuff that they do, but they put out some bad jerseys. So I guess moving on.
I guess you won't be buying any.
I will certainly not be buying any for sure. So what is your opinion now? What is your favorite all-star festivity game or competition that they do?
I mean, there's not like one that I totally pick over the other, but I think it's between the save streak or the passing accuracy.
Okay.
Like the quickest skater is just kind of, I don't know. It's like the same thing every guy you watch pretty much. I mean, obviously there's a difference in time, but it doesn't really get me going really. The save streak sometimes can be kind of lame. It kind of depends on the person shooting but like the one year was it Rinne and Marc-Andre Fleury, and I think one beat him like 13-12 or something like that with consecutive saves. And like when that happens, when goalies are on a roll, I mean that's fun, like there's all sorts of competitions for the the skaters with the passing accuracy. I do like that one because it looks really challenging, like those mini goal ones. So I do like that one. But there's passing accuracy, there's fastest shot, there's the shooting accuracy. They got so much. The goalies kind of got their one thing, and when they get on a roll, it's kind of fun. So I like the save streak.
In my opinion, I like the fastest skater and then the hardest shot. But if I'm picking them, I'm going with the hardest shot. I just think it baffles me to see just how hard they are really able to get it. I remember like Zdeno Chara and Shea Weber just absolutely dominating those competitions, hitting it 100. I mean, well over 100 miles an hour.
I was just gonna say, if Zdeno Chara is doing it, then maybe, because he had like 100. He's had like 105.6 or something like that before.
Yeah, it's a crazy number. But that's my favorite one. I just think I love seeing the big enforcer, the big defenseman going out there and just absolutely unloading on some. It almost makes you appreciate with how hard they're hitting. Obviously, not all the time you're going to be hitting it that hard in the game because there's bodies in front of you. But it just makes you appreciate that much more, really, how hard it is to be a goaltender in the NHL.
Yeah. I want to give some more goalie love tonight. Did you see the goalie goal the other night?
Yeah, with Pekka Rinne.
Yeah, it's like the 15th one ever or something like that. There's not many.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's just an empty net or like whatever. But still,
right. I mean, still to be able as a goalie to kind of yeet that thing, dump it off to the other end of the ice, and get it right in the middle, in the middle of the net. That's impressive. That is impressive.
Yeah.
Like we said, hopefully we get some more NHL news going on. Like we said, kind of with the NBA right now, not a whole lot to talk about because there's just not a whole lot going on. So we will move on from the NHL and move on to some MLB talk right now. There was a trade that happened. We've had pretty weak offseason after all of the big names have been signed. There really hasn't a whole lot been going on after that. But there was a trade. So the Rays acquired outfielders Jose Martinez and Randy Arozarena from the St. Louis Cardinals in exchange for top pitching prospect Matt Liberatore and catching prospect Edgardo Rodriguez, as well as a round B pick It also includes a round A pick from the Cardinals, which was announced Thursday night. Um, First off, I guess, initial reaction, who do you think won this trade?
The Rays. I think the Rays won. I don't think this is obviously this ain't no blockbuster trade, but for the most part, almost every trade, I lean to the team getting proven talent. A prospect at the end of the day is just a prospect. They haven't proven themselves yet. And a lot of them, as a Twins fan, I would know, a lot of them don't pan out. And it's not like Jose Martinez is this great player, but at the end of the day, he's proven he's a solid player. He batted 309 3 seasons ago and 305 2 seasons ago. He only batted 269 this last year. But I think at the end of the day, he can be for a Rays team that's got a good pitching staff and just needs a little offense here and there and should be a quality team this year. I think he could provide offense. I think he definitely could provide some good offense for them. He's a good hitter with a fairly high on base percentage. He doesn't hit a lot of home runs, but I think at the end of the day, he's a proven hitter. And all they're really giving up is a starter who you don't know if he is a pitcher who you don't know if he's going to be any good anyways. So I think the Rays won.
Right. I'm with I'm with you on some aspects of this. I'm more of a guy who I appreciate more when teams trade for players who are established, who have had major league experience, because for the most part, you know what they're going to give you. That's why, in my opinion, and I will say this the day that I die, I am not a huge fan of teams like an NFL or NBA when they trade draft picks. I think draft picks are very overrated at times. Obviously, they can help you in some aspects of the game, and you can't trade. You obviously can't trade draft picks in MLB. You don't do that. But I just think that minor league players, it's so hard when you trade for them because very rarely, yes, they might be a top prospect, but you don't know what they're going to give you because they haven't gotten to the big leagues yet. I think Liberatore is a very good pitcher from what I've heard. I remember when they were drafting him, they had a whole thing with him and Nolan Gorman, who was a St. Louis Cardinals, also drafted. Childhood friends that grew up, both got drafted now by different teams. But now they're on the same team, which is going to be really cool. But I think Liberatore is a very good pitcher. I think he will pan out in the major leagues. So the Cardinals, I think, could potentially win this one. But as for right now, it's tough to say that the Cardinals won because we don't know if Liberatore is going to be anything.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'll just pretty much say what I already said. I mean, it's not a blockbuster trade. Jose Martinez ain't this great player, but at the end of the day, I think being that the Rays are getting a proven player, I would side with them in this trade because I'm all for 100% trading prospects for proven talent. The Astros, for instance, had Cole, Verlander, and Greinke, and the reason they did, they traded for all three of those players. All three of them they traded for, and they gave up a lot of prospects for them. But who cares? Because they won one World Series and made Game 7 of another one. If they don't trade for Verlander that year, they don't win the World Series. So I don't care what a prospect could potentially do for me in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, because he might not do anything. And you have to play for the present. Or like if you're good and it looks like you're going to make the playoffs, you have to go for it. That's why the Twins just ticked me off when they didn't give up anybody for a starting pitcher this year. At the end of the day, a prospect is just that. They're a prospect. They don't pan out a lot of times. Go for the proven talent. And the Rays, especially in this case, Liberatore's, I think he's like 31st or 41st for prospects, and he's supposed to be pretty good. But the Rays are one of those teams. The Rays, Astros, and Indians are the three teams who can go find anybody off the street and they'll pitch a quality start for them. The Rays are just great at developing pitchers. So losing Liberatore is not going to be that big of a deal. They can find somebody else. And I have no doubt that they will. And Jose Martinez is a player who can help them win.
I agree with you there. I just think it's I think Liberatore, like I said, I think he will be good. I think he will be a solid pitcher for the Cardinals. But now the only instance where I wouldn't agree with you is when you're like for example, a team like the San Francisco Giants. for all these years just depleting their farm system, getting rid of all these players. And yeah, it had some success. They won 3 World Series because of it. But now, where their farm system is now, they're not really set up very well. San Diego Padres, another team, they have had very, very solid farm systems, and they trade for these players that are going to help them now, and it hasn't worked out, and they're restarting like every few years or so. So I don't think you want to completely deplete your farm system to get these players, but I think every once in a while, like you said, you got to give up a lot to get a lot.
I mean, at the end of the day, you have to make sure you're actually good enough where you should be trading away prospects too, though. Like the Padres, I mean, I'm not saying they totally screwed up doing it today because they were trying to win, and I commend that. But the team like the Astros, who I already brought up, they were already good. So at that point, it's, that's where you go all out and, trade the farm to go help you win. And when they got Verlander, help them. You have to make sure you're actually good enough where trading away your farm for a proven player is actually going to be worth it, though. Whereas the Padres, was it? I don't know. And the Giants, I don't know if the Giants necessarily even traded that much back when they were winning the World Series. But, maybe their farm system's totally depleted now. But at the end of the day, if you won 3 World Series in 5 years, three since 2012, like, I don't care how bad we are for the next 5 years. You gave me 3 World Series in 5 or 6 years, so I don't care.
Right.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, I feel that for sure. It's an interesting thing. We'll have to see what happens from it. Like we said, right now, I think short-term success, I think the Rays definitely win. I think the Cardinals have potential to have more success with that, but we'll have to see for sure. Boston Red Sox, another team in the news for sign stealing. Nick, what was your opinion on this?
I'm very disappointed because, obviously the Twins are my favorite team, but I like the Red Sox. I really do. I was rooting for them pretty hard in the World Series against the Dodgers. And now, it's just another team I like that got in trouble with, cheating, essentially. And it's not a good look for the Red Sox. It's not a good look for Major League Baseball. And now I'm wondering, the Astros did it, the Red Sox did it. How many other teams potentially have done this? And, we've talked about it before. I see no issue with stealing signs if you do it within the rules and legally. Honestly, that's just strategy, and that's just good baseball. If you can steal signs, that's just part of the game. But you have to do it within the legality of the rules. And they didn't do that, and it's just disappointing. I mean, I think they still probably win the World Series if they didn't do it.
Right.
But, I mean, they were. I said a couple weeks ago, I think that might be the best team in all the major four sports in the last decade. That team was so dominant. That's one of the better baseball teams I've ever seen. But obviously it probably helped them, and it's not a good look, and they should be punished in some sort of way for it.
Right. I think they should too. It's just, and the thing that's the most disappointing too is you're going to have the fan bases come out and be like, oh, they definitely would have lost if they didn't do the sign stealing. Now, the difference between this one and the Astros one is the Astros one was throughout the regular season and the postseason. From what I've been hearing, the Red Sox one was mainly just in the regular season, supposedly. It's just such a sticky situation because, like I said, I have no problem with sign stealing. I think within the confines of the game, as long as you're not using, technology to try and figure out what those signs are, then sure. But you gotta figure out in the game what the signs are. Like I said, sign stealing, I have no problem with, but it's just the manner in which you do it is what could get you into trouble.
Yeah.
But anyways, we can move on from that for sure. So the last topic that we have to talk about is the national championship. It's coming up this Monday, Clemson and LSU. Well, first off, we'll just do a straight reaction. Who do you have winning this game?
The Tigers.
Oh, really? Well, me too.
I I believe we're gonna have different picks here. I have Clemson.
Okay.
I know you weren't very high on Clemson a while back, and honestly, I was kind of with you. I didn't think they were that good. They almost lost to North Carolina, and if it weren't for the worst fourth and goal at the one, I think it was. If it weren't for the worst play like in history from that spot, they probably would have lost North Carolina. But since then, it was shortly before the playoffs. I had looked. I'm like, wow, this team's turned around. They hadn't played many great teams, but were beating everybody by like 30 points.
Right.
And coming into the playoff, I said Ohio State and LSU have been the best two teams this year, which I think they had been. They had looked the best two teams. But I couldn't get over the fact that Clemson has won 20-some straight games. At the end of the day, they're the reigning champs with the same quarterback and same coach as they had last year when they won it all. And I pretty much said what I said about the Patriots. Until they prove me wrong, I'm not going to pick against them. So I picked them to beat Ohio State. And they got down like 12-0, and it looked like they might get blown out. And Trevor Lawrence, who wasn't even throwing the ball very well, found a way to win it on his feet. And Clemson ended up actually beating Ohio State, somewhat handily. They pretty much controlled that game the whole fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, I'm going to take them to beat LSU. I think LSU has been the best team this year. I think they've looked the best. Burrow is a stud. He definitely should have won Heisman. But come Monday, in the biggest game of the year, I trust Clemson more, and they're definitely more experienced. So I'm going to lean with them.
Sure. I'm going with LSU, so we do differ on this one. To me, I just think when you have a Heisman-winning quarterback on your team, that's ginormous. I mean, that is so huge. Yeah. But something that is very underrated to why Joe Burrow was to have that much success is that their offensive line at LSU, I don't remember the name of the award, but they won the award for the best offensive line in the nation. And if you have a really solid offensive line, you can do wonders. You're going to be able to do so much with that. And that's exactly how I feel here. Their receivers also a very, very solid receiving core too. The biggest thing for me is that LSU during the regular season had to go up against much tougher talent than what Clemson had to go through. And we even saw when Clemson played against Ohio State, that game came down to the last possession. If Ohio State doesn't throw a pick, who knows? Maybe it's Ohio State and LSU. LSU has handled their business against very, very tough opponents. And I think Clemson's another tough opponent, but I just don't think it's going to be something that LSU is going to get scared of.
I guess, that's a very good point. They've definitely been tested more than Clemson, and they've beat like 4 or 5 top 10 teams this year. So, that maybe takes confidence away a little bit from taking Clemson, but I just think typically in football in general, come championship game, there's been a lot of them between a really good offense and a really good defense. And I don't know if Clemson's defense is like one of the best in the nation, but I think although LSU's offense is clearly the best in the nation, their defense isn't as good as Clemson. A lot of times it seems like the defensive team ends up winning. That being said, LSU's offense is one of the best we've seen, honestly, ever. I mean, they're just balling out. I just think all it's going to take is one or two turnovers for LSU, and that's what's going to be the difference for Clemson. Because I think Clemson's going to be able to score on this LSU defense. LSU's defense hasn't done anything to convince me they can stop Lawrence, and I think as long as Clemson can find a way to get one or two stops, I think they're going to get it done because they have the experience. They know what it takes to win. And unless you get up by 20 on them, they're not going to go away. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But it should be a really good game. Very good game.
Unfortunately, I have to work, so I'm going to have to try and watch it on my phone or something. Very, very unfortunate.
Jordan's boss, come on. What are you doing?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. Got something against me or something. But I had to work these last few weeks as well, too. I thought Saturdays were going to be amazing because I never worked on Saturdays when we started this podcast. And the last month, I've worked every Saturday. And I'm working next Saturday as well, too. So I guess we're just going to have to get used to doing these late podcasts. But like I said, I think it'll be a very good game. I think it'll be exciting to see two different kinds of matchups going up against each other. Obviously, Clemson, being in it a few times the last few years. But seeing a new team, a new SEC team, and also this is more of a pride thing of anything. I just want to see SEC win again, just to show that we're the best conference in football.
And I do agree, regardless of what happens tonight, that SEC or on Monday night, that SEC is the best conference in football. Clemson is definitely the best team over the last 3 or 4 years. Sorry, Alabama, but they are. But I think SEC is still reigns, in my opinion. I agree with you on that.
Well, I appreciate that. At least, you got some logic. That's for sure.
But, yeah, Tigers are going to win. I'll be right on that.
Go Tigers. It'll be fun to watch for sure.
Oh, was that your Orgeron impression?
It was. I don't know if it was good or not, but
I'll give you a 7 out of 10.
Okay, well, it's better than nothing, I guess. But that's all the topics that we have to talk about. Unless, Nick, was there anything else that you wanted to bring up?
Nope. I was thinking about just continuing that rant of the Vikings, but I'll refrain.
Well, that's okay. Well, like we said, we'll save that for another time for sure. It's oh, did you have something?
Yeah, just thought. So, I'm a Laker fan, obviously, as you know. Well, I mean, I guess I'm a LeBron fan, but as now that means Laker fan. But so LeBron and Davis both were out tonight, and they beat the Thunder by like 15, and we're once winning by 30. So who needs AD and LeBron, anyways, huh?
Right. Yeah, who needs him?
Oh no, I'm just kidding. But that did surprise me tonight.
Well, anyways, so I don't have any other topics to discuss. I just kind of wanted to make a few public service announcements. Like I'm sure some of you guys saw with the tweet and the Facebook post that I've made, trying to start a new mini-series thing where this off-season we talk about every single MLB team and discuss. But we want to change things up a little bit and have you, the fan, also be on the episode. So if you're listening to this, please share this podcast to people. If you know someone or are someone who is a fan of a specific team in Major League Baseball, we've got about 1 million people for the Twins. So I think Twins and Rockies were definitely set there. We also have some other ones, some other teams as well too. But I am definitely looking for people to go out there and try and find some other fans of those teams because I want to try and make this as fun as possible. Also want to try and get a bunch of other people as well too. Other people on there.
See that.
I did not see that. No, I cannot. I didn't know what that was.
It said please share.
Please share. Absolutely. Please share. Also, I'm looking just to interview other people too. If you, it doesn't even have to necessarily be for an MLB team or to be a guest on the show. But if you just want to come on and, we kind of interview a little bit, kind of talk about some things that you do, some big things that you're a part of, and then also talk about some sports as well with you too. That's the plan. I know I have a couple people in the works. My buddy Austin Jordan, he is a rapper in the Minnesota area. He's trying to get big, trying to get his name out there. But also, Nick, you will love him. Ginormous LeBron fan, too. So, you guys will get along phenomenally. We'll have to get him on here to talk about his music and to talk about that. We are going to do that. We just don't have a date set yet. And obviously,
does he have a LeBron rap?
What's that?
Is there a LeBron rap?
A LeBron? Well, maybe I can give him a message and tell him to get one ready for the show.
Yeah, I want to hear LeBron rap.
For sure. But that's all the stuff that we kind of have going on here. As always, please share this to your friends, family. Let us know what you thought of it. We appreciate all the comments, the good ones and the bad ones. Josh and Milling, I'm talking to you. But I do appreciate them nonetheless because it makes us better. That's for sure. But like we said, please share. Please try and get our name out there because we're trying to get as big as we can with this.
Yes.
Absolutely. But if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can follow us. Mine is Lucas_Dorton, capital L, capital D. And for the people at home, Mr. Doetkott, what is your Twitter handle?
Just at Doetkott. Doettkott. Sounds like Doetkott.
Sounds like Doetkott.
Yes.
I love it. So if you want to be on the show, or if you have questions, comments, or concerns, if you have some that we're talking about or what we should talk about, definitely let us know. But that is all we have to talk about. It was a successful show. We did not have any Wi-Fi outage. Phenomenal job
Yeah.
to both of our internet for not giving out on us this time. But I am Lucas Dorton. As for my co-host Nick Doetkott, until next week, we are out.